one should ask this question of oneself. Why we human beings live the way we are doing? And can we live in this world bringing about this fundamental psychological revolution or transformation, and yet live in this world sanely, rationally, with occupation and all the rest of it? May we go into that, if you are interested in it, and I hope you are. First of all, the Western world has divided consciousness. The unconscious, deeper, and the superficial, conscious. And one may temporarily bring about a modified change in the obvious superficial consciousness. That superficial consciousness can adjust itself to anything, to terror, to wars, to all the travail of human beings superficially. And the unconscious, the deeper, the hidden layers of the mind being consciousness, and we are using that word mind, which we have explained carefully, which we won't go into further. And that deep unconscious entity is part of the race, part of the deep unconscious demands, fears, and a sense of deep sorrow. I think it is a great mistake to divide consciousness into these departments, conscious and the unconscious. Consciousness is whole. You may divide it for convenience, for exploration, for investigation. But as long as one maintains this divisive consciousness, the consciousness which is broken up into the deeper and to the higher, there is not only a conflict, but also, if one go into it, a sense of the abiding past always controlling, shaping the present. Now please, as we said, the speaker is not here. You are asking these questions yourselves. And we are using words that are common. And we are not being driven by the words. You may have read psychological books and have certain jargon, certain ideas. And those ideas, those words drive you, control your thinking, control your reactions, and so on. If you do that, our communication with each other becomes extremely difficult. Whereas, if we use the word without all its associations which our education, our reading has brought about, emotionally or not, if we can use the word plainly, simply, then we are in communication with each other. Right? And I hope you will do this while we are talking together. Now, can the unconscious, the deeper, be revealed? Or revealed totally, completely, exposed to the bright light of perception? Or must it be investigated through dreams, through occasional hunch, occasional intimation, or some form of intuition? I personally don't like that word intuition, because you can have an intuition about anything. It may be your own desire prompting you to have certain feeling about something. So we are not using that word at all. So is it possible to investigate without analysis the whole content of the deeper layers of one's mind? You understand my question? Please follow. It's your life, not mine. Since the psychologists have divided this, conscious mind thinks it can investigate into the unconscious. It can then proceed to analyze its dreams, its superficial activities, its reactions, always from the superficial, from the conscious, delve into the unconscious, right? And in that, there's a great deal of danger. Because the conscious mind is full of imaginary sensory demands, beliefs, and so on. With all that, it is trying to investigate something which is hidden. You're following this? And there are those people who try to investigate their reactions, their actions, and so on, in a group, telling each other, which is the same as talking to oneself. You're following all this? And this division is always maintained. So there is always conflict within the outer and the inner. The outer being conscious, the superficial, and the deeper. I do not know if you have not noticed all this. You don't have to go to any psychologist, philosopher, or any professional specialist in psychology. You can observe all this in yourself, if you know how to read yourself. And most of us haven't got either the energy or the interest or the demand that says I must find out. But when there is a crisis, then we go to some specialist and hoping he will solve our problems. So we are always dependent on somebody. And he and he on whom you depend is equally conditioned. Perhaps much more divisive, little more neurotic, and has to be analyzed by another analyzer, and so on, the game goes on. This is what we are doing. Depending on somebody to tell us what to do, how to think, how to move out of our own problems, out of our own desperate crises. Now, is it possible to observe our consciousness not as two broken levels, but totally? You understand my question? Can I observe my consciousness not as the unconscious and the conscious, but as a total unit, not divided, but a thing that is intrinsically whole? Right? Is it possible to so observe? You understand me? It is only possible when I understand very clearly that this division is artificial, perhaps convenient, and perhaps it might explain certain neurotic activities, but actually it is totally brought about by man, by thought. I don't know if I'm right? Are we following each other? You are asking these questions yourself. I'm not asking you to ask them. So, we are asking, is it possible to observe without any direction, without any distortion, this whole movement of consciousness? It is possible only when you have no direction. Which means the moment you have a motive, you give it a direction. Right? The moment you want to get something out of it, it becomes distorted. You say, well, I must go beyond this limited entity. The very desire that wants to go beyond this limit is born out of its own conditioning. Therefore, it is still distorted. I hope you're following all this. So is it possible to observe without direction, without motive, without reward and punishment? Is that possible? Don't say yes or no. One has to find that out for oneself, for yourself. Can you observe your wife, your girl, whatever it is you are observing, without a motive, without a direction, without wanting something out of it? Which means then your whole attention is there, because there is no deviation. You're following this? Then you're completely alert and aware. And then only it is possible to observe this whole phenomenon of consciousness in action. And can you observe without all that? So we say, as it is not possible to do it instantly, I will practice. I'll gradually, day after day, cultivate attention. Right? Practice a sense of awareness, which is the essence of sensitivity. Right? To be so tremendously sensitive. If you're not sensitive, you can't be attentive. So you practice sensitivity. Kind of, we are monkeys, really. Which means we have basically understood that wherever there is an intention, a desire, a cultivation in order to do something, then that kind of mentality is devoid of entirely of sensitivity, attention. I hope you're doing all this. Are we doing this as we're talking to each other? Not tomorrow or another day, but actually as you're sitting there, talking together, will you do this? Are you doing it? No direction, no motive, no desire for reward for doing something. If you don't do it, punishment. To be totally out of that field altogether. Then is there an observation of the whole nature and the structure, the complex movement of consciousness as a whole? Then only it is possible to bring about real, deep, fundamental transformation. Because in that there is no positive action. We explain that, what we mean by positive action. That is, try to do something about your consciousness. Try to force it, try to control it, try to expand it, suppress it. Conscious means all its contents, your angers, your desires, your sexual demands, your beliefs, dogmas, belonging to certain culture, all that is part of consciousness. To observe it, as most people are, if they do observe, try to do something about it. That is, I must be free of the church. And in freeing themselves from a particular organized religious body, they topple into another religious body and think they've changed tremendously. It's the same pattern repeated over and over and over again. So can you observe this whole movement? Or must you take each reaction bit by bit? You understand my question? I think it's clear. I'm making it clear. If I'm sexual, I'm concerned about that. If I'm worried about my relationship to my wife, not only sexually but in other ways, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about my health. We lay emphasis on one thing and neglect the others, right? We must have perfect health. Therefore you become a vegetarian, God knows what else, and become a neurotic about it. This is what we are doing all the time. Go to India to find God or enlightenment. You know, there is a lovely story from India. A young man leaves his family, goes to various teachers all over India and asking them to teach him truth. He wanders about 30, 40, 50 years and doesn't find it. And ultimately, as an old man, he comes back to his house and he knocks on the door. And the door is opened by somebody. And just then he sees the truth. You understand? It's there, not over there.